All right, it's time to talk about Link Neal's favorite topic, lesbians. Uh, Hi, welcome to Rainbow Pill University. I'm Draco Self Important. Uh, you really should listen to me, but we're gonna talk about an article that was written, I think, a couple of years ago. Um, I think just post election or maybe earlier this year or last year. I don't remember, not super recently, but it just came to my attention recently, and so that's why we're talking about it now. I will try to find the article and leave a link to it. I will be forthright. The article is a jumping off point for me. I'm not really here to critique the work of this person so much, but to kind of talk about the lesbian reaction. Um, so I was watching an Anne Marie Forcino video. I adore her, by the way, certified lesbian. And so she has opinions on this piece. The piece was a piece about choosing lesbianism. Um, and choosing lesbianism as someone who is, it seems, primarily actually attracted to men, also is attracted to women, right? We are not talking about someone who, is manufacturing an attraction for women out of nothing. We're talking about someone who is attracted to both men and women and has decided, fuck men, I'm a lesbian now. Which I think is what incels think all lesbians do, right? Um, no. That's right up there with the all you need's one good dick and that'll solve it of it all. Also, no. Um, Now, as a dude, my coming here to talk to you about lesbians and their lesbian opinions probably seems a little like, bro, what are you and your gay ass doing here to talk about these women? Um, well, the whole back in the day, when we all thought I was a woman, I was also, at times trying to date a lesbian. I tried to date girls. I think that legitimately is part of my dysphoria, is like thinking like boys date girls, and so like that but it was like way back here somewhere, so it never quite. Yeah. Anyway, um, I can tell you that I had experiences where lesbians would hear that you, say, had been divorced from a man, and it would be like, and then that would shut down the entire conversation. We're talking like shit was flirty. Like, I remember one time I had kissed this fucking girl. Like, she did some cute fucking thing when she lit my cigarette, because it was back in the days that I smoked actual cigarettes and you could smoke in a bar because we were inside smoking a cigarette. That's how fucking long ago this was. Um, but yeah, and then I was like, oh yeah, getting divorced or just got divorced or something. I think it was, I'd like gone out to Jake's, which was the gay bar at the time. It's gone. COVID killed it. COVID and their inability to card properly, so constantly getting shut down by the liquor board. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah. But I have what was a very promising flirtation shut down immediately because I had been near a dick. So one of the things that Anna Marie said, I just pronounced her name real weird, and I'm not going to take another take because as an Italian, I feel bad because I'm probably fucking it up anyway. But um, was like, girl, you can just be bisexual. Can you though? Can you? Because biphobia is real, and biphobia is real for bisexual men and bisexual women. I'm sure there's panphobia as well, but the phobic people probably don't acknowledge pansexuals as really even existing as a concept, let alone any nuanced differences that we might be able to tease out between bisexual and pansexual. But I digress. Um, I would just like to address that, like, for generations at least, bisexual people, bisexual women specifically, have been straight, have been living their lives, identifying, moving through the world as straight people, and only inside their own little brains does their bisexuality ever rear its, ugly little head, right? So, like, the idea, like, how many stories do you hear about of people, you know, getting old, basically realizing that their entire fucking life has been a mistake and leaving their whole ass family to go, marry their same-sex partner, and it's like, oh, I got two dads now, I got two moms, and whatever, so like it's a trope for a reason, because it's a thing that people feel a need to force themselves into societal boxes. But here's the thing, man, like, if you are a bisexual person and you happen to fall in love with someone of the opposite sex, and then like, hooray, like, that's you know I remember having this conversation with one of the ex-husbands, um, about my sexuality not changing just because we were together. Like, I don't stop being bi because you have a dick. Like, who I am as a person fundamentally does not change because of my proximity to you, you know? So, like, but identity is a choice, right? Like, to identify as bisexual or as straight or as lesbian, right? Like, these things are all choices. Like, I identify very casually. I'll call myself gay. I'll call myself queer. I'll call myself a big Nelly homo. I love a slur. Yeah, anyway. Love a slur for myself, mind you. I love the taking the sting out of those things. Plus, I am like a swear master, which is, as a recently reverted Muslim, it's like kind of the worst thing. I'm by no means a perfect Muslim. Please don't use me as an example for what like a Muslim is, because I'm basically a Muslim with training wheels. Uh, so please don't use me as like your bog standard example, but do know that there are many different ways to practice Islam. And I am doing it with sincerity. So, yeah. Anyway, um, I think that if you make a decision to, as someone who, like, let's say potentially you are equally attracted to both men and women, and you're like, yeah, dog, society has made it a complete fucking shit show. I'm not doing this, right? And so in this article, this woman was like, this was a Gen Z woman, mind you. So, like, someone in their 20s, so an adult, but a very young adult. But someone who has experienced the shit that I've been making videos about for literal years now, all of you guys going, the dating market is fucked. Oh my God, man. Um, and she talked about like making excuses for the bad behavior of the men that she had dated, and like accepting that occasional violence was just the cost of doing business with men and shit like that. Because I tried to deny for a long time in videos where I was like trying to give advice that there was like a distinct problem in the your generation, the generation raising you has failed you, friends. Because, I started out on the same fucking train that a lot of the parents of, Gen Zers are still doing, which is sucking real hard. Having been raised by shitty fucking boomer and Gen X parents with no fucking souls, who were like, my life fucking sucked, so you can suck it up. I'm not going to do anything to make your life better. I'm in fact going to be jealous of everything about your life that is more convenient than mine, and I'm going to take it out on you and everything you love. Uh, and so, you didn't really get good role models on relationships. Was having this conversation with my middle kid the other day. She got a friend going through some real shit. But like, his behavior toward her was pretty fucking manipulative, and she identified it, and she called him out, and and I'm like, that's good, that's really healthy, and it's like, you should have those conversations with people, and like, good job. And I'm like, but like, have empathy, he is also just a kid like you, because teenagers are still kids. Your brain is still developing, and hormones make it harder to think, not easier in a lot of cases. So like he doesn't have good modeling for what this shit is supposed to look like, and so he's modeling what he's learned. And you recognizing it and calling him out and not being willing to accept it, that can be helpful for him too. Because being willing to call out people that you care about is hugely important, right? Um, Man, all the digressions. I am nothing but one giant digression of a human being. Uh, so, the idea that this would now swing in the other direction, and political lesbianism as a concept is not new, right? Like I talked about this months and months ago, or maybe a year or two, whatever the fuck I talked about the 4B movement, right? Um, that the idea, and I think at some point when talking, I might have even touched on political lesbianism when I talked about autogynephilia. Jesus. Political lesbianism comes up a lot in the things that I deal with. So this is a concept that I'm well familiar with, of women basically swearing off men, declaring themselves lesbians as a political statement to be like, you people are not pulling your fucking weight in society. Fuck you. We're going to go over here and do this shit on our own, Amazon style. you know and I'm sure some of those women did in fact go out and just eat all the carpet they could fucking find, but for sure, because they said so in publications, lots of them did not. They just didn't fucking get laid because they were not willing to fucking deal with men, and the lesbianism was an identification that brought power because it pisses men off when you don't want to fuck them. Full stop. Like, I come at this from a unique angle, having been, raised a girl, and having been most of my life the object of that sort of sexual attention. Um, but yeah, I think that perhaps my battery is dying soon. I just got a notification. I hope that's not the "you're about out of memory" notification, because that would make me really sad. But let's see. Can I? Oh, I don't think I can stretch this thing that far. Well, poop. Here, let me check this real quick. Please hold. Oh yeah, we got a little time. Um, and then I'll set up slightly differently so I can plug it in for the next video, because there's another one coming. We're going to talk about atheism, but that's okay. Um, so the idea that this, that political lesbianism would have a comeback is not unreasonable. It didn't really go anywhere because it's not like it was something that was super huge to begin with. It was, in many cases, a niche academic bullshit because it's all thought experiments more than anything else. And your average, person working in a factory doesn't give a fuck. Um, but conversely, the idea that someone would, for the sake of convenience in your life, because of the way that society sucks and the patriarchy is manifesting, would, choose to uh, round up or down, as it were, depending on how you see it, to gay or straight. Um, in as a bisexual, as someone who like could make a choice, right? um I call myself a bisexual, and I mean, like, I am homoromantic. I cannot maintain a fucking romantic relationship with a woman to save my goddamn life. I think chicks are hot, banging girls is fun, but like, so in that regard, right? So like, it would have, when I was, pre-transition, it would have been very easy for me to just be straight, right? But like, I knew that there was something off, and that identity was important to me, and I didn't quite know why. And for me, it was because it was a breadcrumb to who I actually am. Um, but the idea of like resetting your internal kind of compass, right, to your what's on the menu. It's like being a vegetarian, right? Like, people sometimes become vegetarian because they have to, because of some dietary restriction, because of some health something, whatever. But sometimes people become a vegetarian for political reasons. Sometimes people become a vegetarian for environmental reasons. Sometimes people become vegetarian like I did when I was younger, because I felt guilty about the fuzzy little mammals. You know, it's yeah, there are a million different reasons to craft one's identity. And the idea, because the thing that's pissing people off is they're saying that her identity is still centering men. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but the entirety of our fucking society centers men. So no matter what you do, you're going to be making a decision based in large part on men. Like, just literally, like, name a thing. I can explain to you the ways in which the patriarchy or your, societal perceived demand to appease masculine fragility and, like, it is insane having the experience of being treated like a woman and being treated like a man by the same person and seeing how different and like that the complete level of disrespect and like dude. And I know I've told the story before. There was I think there was more than one time that it happened, but there was one for sure that stuck out because there was a dude when I was working collections that I remember telling him the same fucking shit like a month earlier, and I had it in the documentation, so I knew that I did. And he was like, no, 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 no. And in that time, it might have been 2 months, whatever, my voice dropped like dropped. And when my voice change hit real hard, I had to go from doing my high pitched Disney princess customer service voice, the hee hee bubblegum appease the men voice, which still works on women as well, high patriarchy. Um, to go, for a more baritone yoga instructor kind of a vibe. Um, so like there was a marked difference and I had to completely learn like how to rephrase things with people, and it was an interesting transition. And but just if you are a woman and you are interacting with a heterosexual man and that man does not find you attractive, then, his interaction with you is only going to be as far as is absolutely necessary for, whatever the fuck he is in proximity with you about. Like, you can watch the shift in people, or if they do find you attractive and then you shut them down for some reason, or just the perceived imaginary relationship that they could have with you isn't viable, right? The like lesbian of it all, and then men treating lesbians poorly because they're not an option ever. You know what I mean? Like, there are a million different reasons as someone who, because the whole born this way thing, like, yeah, man, some of us are real far one way or the other on those gender and sexuality scales, dude. Like, we've known that sexuality was a spectrum since fucking Kinsey, bro. Like, it is what it is, man. So, like, I don't think it is fair to criticize this young woman for this take with you can just be bisexual though, because it's not that fucking easy. And I mean, biphobia is real, and you can ask any bisexual person of any gender, like, you will, yeah, you get turned down by gays, you get turned down by straights, you get, because they're like, people will think that you will need to go out and seek out someone of the opposite gender, or that you're more likely to cheat. And it's like, if I'm not, if we're talking about like fucking, if I'm not fucking everybody of the opposite sex that I come in contact with because I'm in a committed relationship, why the fuck would, like, the thing that I always said was, you should feel I picked you out of a bigger fucking pool of applicants. Like, I had more choices, I picked you. Versus, oh no, what if you need some other shit? Well, if I needed some other shit, I'd have picked some other shit. It's like my current relationship. We've been together for like 3.5 years. We started out as a grinder hookup that then became like open dating, that very quickly I was like, I need to never leave. Not physically, we live separately because I'm trapped in a financial hellscape. Uh, but that's okay. Uh, so many other things in my life are awesome that, the money's not real anyway. It's fine. That's I mean, honestly, being anti-capitalist does really make not having money feel very different, because it's like, meh, whatever. And I think that you get by. Not everyone, not all the time. Sometimes shit happens, but most of the time you get by. Anyway, um, yeah, I understand the idea that, like, I'm gonna take my ball and go home as a sexual identity seems rash, childish, maybe. If you aren't presented with the choice, you know? Um, I think that for bisexual people, in a lot of cases, it is easier to default to however you're perceived in the world. If you are perceived as a heterosexual person, then it's a lot easier to, find dates, flirt, whatever, because people are more likely to pick up on those signals because it's expected. If you are like me and a big flamey faggot of a bisexual, people are going to assume that you're gay. And I mean, I don't know how many times and people do come out as bi and then to gay, just like I came out as non-binary before I figured out I was a dude. Like, sometimes it is a stepping stone. Um, so there's that aspect involved, is that sometimes you gotta dip a toe. Uh, that American Dad episode, so good. Anyway, uh, it's just, you can't be mad at someone taking their experiences into consideration. Everything that I heard from this article, because she read most of it in the video, like, none of it to me sounded unreasonable, right? Did I agree with all of it? No. But I'm not a fucking lesbian, and I'm not even mostly a lesbian. Like, first of all, I'm a dude. And secondly, which, not to get into the, and Anne Marie as well was like, I'm not getting into the trans mask and the, he identifying lesbians, and that's a whole different, there's nuance to all of this, right? But it's, labels just help people identify themselves and help other people to know how to interact with them. And if you don't want the men that you are interacting with to see you as an option in any way, shape, or form, because you're not going to allow that to be an option, but you are choosing to allow women to be an option, sounds pretty lesbian to me, bro. Like, I don't sleep with men, I sleep with women exclusively. This is not something that, like, as far as I know, I'm not changing my mind. This is a decision that I've come to that works well for me and my family, and this is what we're doing, like, what's the problem with this? The fact that she wrote about it and talked about her experience, and that it doesn't align with what you think it, like, you don't know what it's like to be bisexual, bro. You can't just be bisexual. You can't. That's not how it works. That is not how it works. Ask a bisexual. You can. Like, granted, yes, obviously you can. I am sitting here telling you, hi, I am a bisexual. Like, I live a life where, I don't let people say mean things to me, let alone would I fucking, like, I have standards. I don't give a shit what anyone has to say about my fucking sexuality except for my partner, and he's well pleased. So we're doing great in that department. We always have been. It like I said, started as a grinder hookup, and it was apparently good enough to come back because I spent like, oh god, probably nearly 2 years, something like that. I spent a long time on Grinder desperately trying to find someone worth fucking more than once. I just I'm like, please, please be worth fucking more than once and not be a piece of shit. Like I need to hang out with you and to bang. And yeah, I ended up with my partner who was wonderful, and I actually still have a friend who um was just message me. At any rate, I still have a friend who was also a grinder hookup, and I actually just watched Sunset Strip today. Who a former grinder hookup is in that movie. That's fun. I miss that guy, Robin. If you're out there, if you're watching this, you should text me. Uh, yeah. Um, I've been gone for a long time. There's a video that either is out or will be coming out explaining what that's all about. But I'm sorry if this was real rusty, but it is what it is. I hope that I have made a point. I hope that someone has learned something. If my tagging and such has worked, and Ms. Anna Marie is watching this, I adore you. I also watch Anna Marie Tusino. I generally think you're pretty awesome. I just think that you're missing a perspective on this. That like you can't possibly, you know, as not a bisexual, you're just not gonna get it in the same way. And I think that based on the what I saw of the article, I think the girl did a good job of like explaining what she meant. And there are a lot of people that were very supportive. Like it was published by somebody, like it wasn't just a blog post. I think, I don't know, maybe it was a Substack. I don't know. I don't think it was a Substack. I think it was an actual published by some fucking website article. But whatever. Um, yeah. At any rate, what do you think? Can you just be bisexual? Do you have questions about sexuality? Ask. I would love to go into some kind of an educational topic. Maybe get back into the dating advice game, as it were, as someone with a history of ridiculous relationships that figured out how to not do that anymore, and is trying to pass that along to my kids and maybe to some of you out there, hopefully not young enough to be my kids. Well, I don't know. My big one is going to be 18 soon, so I'm almost the parent of an adult, like legally, like not like he very responsible young man, like incredibly so. So like I'm not saying he's not an adult and like he's immature, but like bro doesn't have a fully developed frontal lobe yet. That's just how biology works. It'll happen. It's just uh, 18-year-olds just 18. Anyway, I love you. Be safe. Make good choices.